It always comes to this. More bodysuit. Hello there guys, here to do another tattoo video today. It's not a progress update. That being said, the last thing I had done was the layout on the lower arm. So basically the ghost lines of my new sleeve project, or the outline of my new sleeve project with Rick, and the healed final touches of the red, white, and black on black sleeve with Terry. I just wanted to talk a little bit today about some things that I get asked quite often. I've made 3 videos on the subject of why I blacked out, but I still get a lot of questions about it. So I thought probably I'd just brush on that just a little bit. It's been quite a while since I've spoken about it, as I'm sort of moving away from blackout tattoos, as strange as it sounds. You know, it's common thought that once you go black, you don't come back, kind of thing, or if you black something out, you can't work over top of it. But I've got almost my entire upper body covered now to some extent over black. And so maybe it's time for me to talk a little bit about the blackout again. So to start, I had my first right arm done many years ago. It was done by many different artists, and the guy who finished the sleeve was trying to blend everything together, and he wasn't the most capable artist to begin with. So tattooing on his own, let alone matching someone else's style, wasn't exactly easy. I didn't know exactly what to look for quality-wise in a tattoo artist at that point. I was probably more impressed with his artistic abilities than his technical abilities. And so what he ended up producing versus what he presented that he could produce were 2 different things. So my first right arm was all kinds of chaos because there was too many ideas, and the ideas never really worked out and never really came together in any way that I was happy with. So Lee and I, who I had already been working with on various projects at that point, Lee being the person who did most of my upper body blackout and a lot of he did my back piece, and he did my spawn sleeve on the other arm, and that was cover-ups too. There were cover-ups even in that sleeve. He and I had always joked that the only way we were ever going to fix that right arm is by blacking it out, and at that point that was kind of off the table for me. Way back then, I didn't like blackout myself. I didn't understand why people would get just a big black sleeve. That kind of stuff seems to only make sense to you when you get there. That's what I say often to other people who criticize my previous all black suit. That suit had a purpose and a reason, and it's hard to explain to someone who isn't there yet mentally. And also, you just may never get there mentally. So there were reasons why I wanted to cover that arm. But when I covered that arm in black, I grew to like that look more and more. And originally I still had a few pieces left that I liked, but I covered more and more of them as time went on until it was basically completely black. I think I left 1 or 2 pieces before blacking out other parts of my body. But there was another reason. The same artist who was working on my arm, who never really tied in my sleeve, he was quite artistically capable and gifted, but technically not so much. I had him do the greater part of my ribs and stomach, the tentacles and the eye. The original eye was done by him. The eye being based off of a drawing I did as a kid, based on 2 Final Fantasy monsters. I've done a video about the meaning of the eye, so I'm not going to get too much into that and why it's persisted through all of my bodysuits. None of that was executed well, and it was never finished either. So, for example, all the lines on the tentacles were wobbly and barely in, and not even. They weren't the same depth, they weren't the same width. Everything was not quite right, and some lines didn't connect, and we ran those lines at least 4 times in some places. It got to a place where I was, I had mental scar tissue from working on my torso so many times. We did so many big sessions on my torso, and there was still so much work to do, that the artist got burnt out. The tentacles in my original suit were actually meant to be colored. I had always envisioned those tentacles being purple, blue, and green, or something like that. However that would have worked out. They were supposed to be color tattoos. That's probably easy to picture given everything else in that suit was color. My first bodysuit was mostly color. There were some black and gray elements, but it was a lot of full color saturation, which should come as a shock to no one because I'm not a big fan of negative space to begin with. But that suit that a lot of people thought was really cool was never finished. And I also think that things were too small and unreadable. I find it quite funny now in retrospect, and this is different from when I first made my Why I Blacked Out video back in 2020, I think it was. Now, looking back, it's funny to say that the work I have over top of the black is objectively more readable than any of the work I had underneath of it. The only exception to that might be the chest piece, but again, we're not done with the chest piece yet, and considering it's being done over black, it's remarkable that it's almost as clear as the old chest piece was. Now, that wasn't the only thing that happened in that bodysuit. There was also a lot of different elements and a lot of stuff that just didn't work together. I was building that suit in a period of my life where I didn't have the money to go for long sessions very often or at all. So a lot of things became small. It was a lot of like, I have $400 a month for tattoos, whatever the case was. So I couldn't afford to dream that big. And so everything was cobbled together. It had a very scrapbook kind of look to it, which for some people really liked. But like, fuck me if you could tell what any of that was from far away. None of it made any sense. And I was never really happy with how it all came together. And being that you only have one body, theoretically, I mean, as I've proven, that's not really the case. I wanted something more striking or something more cohesive. I always was a fan of Japanese bodysuits and the flow of them. And it was too far gone for me. I also likewise really liked trash polka, but that style came about when I was already mostly done my first bodysuit. It became popular, and so I always said, if I got to start over, I might have gone down that road. I might have made my whole bodysuit trash polka. So it shouldn't be too much of a surprise that I've gone black and red again, because I always liked black and red work. So yeah, anyway, going forward, the Blackout seemed like a great way to start over. Now, I have a video on this channel from when I was blacking out, and you can quote me on this, called The Power of Blackout, or the Rebirth, something like I think it was, I don't remember what it was. I'll find it and I'll put it in the caption here. But it was basically about how Blackout isn't the end, it's the beginning, or a new beginning, a second life. So in saying that, even then, in that video, and you can go watch it and see that I'm being honest here, even at that point when I was making that video during the Blackout journey still, I was still doing Blackout sessions active weekly. It was never like, oh, this is the end of the road for me. It was always, this is the beginning of the road. This is like the start of something new. So a lot of people didn't understand when I was fully blacked out why it didn't end. So like, I don't get it. You blacked out, you took all that time and all that money to black out. Now you're just covering the blackout. It's like, that was always the point. The point was always to do more. That was the point of the Blackout too. The first Blackout sleeve, though I did do that because that sleeve wasn't great. It was too chaotic. It wasn't just that. It was also that I wanted to continue getting tattooed. I fell in love with the industry and the process of being tattooed to a place where I wanted that in my life, and I wanted to keep going. You can call it an addiction, you can call it whatever you want. Passion project. I've always considered my body to be something of an old car that an old dude is working on in the shed forever, or an old bike or something. It's my ever-evolving art project, and so finishing the Blackout was not the final line. That wasn't the end. It wasn't like with that logic, I would have been done the first time around. So I never really understood the people who didn't get that why are you covering the black now? It's the same reason I covered the first stuff. You know, it's not that I hate everything about the old stuff. Sure, some things didn't work out properly. I think that on a technical level, and this is just me calling it down the line, for anyone who understands tattooing fundamentals and technique, the Blackout was done objectively better. It was better done than any of the old work. That is not a debate. You can choose to dislike the Blackout or prefer the older suit, but objectively, factually, the Blackout was done better, technically. It may have even been better than what I'm doing now on a technical level. That being said, that's not the final road. I always said that Blackout is great for cleaning up the mess. So a lot of people have taken to asking me if I plan on blacking out again when I'm done this bodysuit. And I don't think I'm going to live long enough to be done this bodysuit, is my answer to that. I've been thinking about how I wanted to put that answer for a while, and I just don't think that I'll live to see the day. Everything that I'm doing now, because I'm always going to give you the unfiltered truth, takes way longer than working on normal skin. So, and to get these things to be as crisp as they are, it's several sessions, where when you do a rose on negative space, it's quick. You could do that in no time, and it's only going to take one pass. Everything that I'm doing now scales with effort. So like theoretically, I could make this red more condensed as many times as I want. I can keep going. I can keep refining this project forever, which is really like kind of perfect for me because I don't really want to stop anyway. So the idea of will I black it out doesn't even come to mind, because I've found an art form now with this that never really has a finished point, in that I can keep refining it. So whereas with my old suit, once the damage was done, for the most part, it's not like the red's going to get much brighter. It was already too bright, you know, there wasn't enough to do with it. Whereas with the Blackout, it really does scale with your patience. So, and I'm a very patient person, if you haven't noticed. Anyway, I'll probably make another one of these retrospective why I blacked out videos here in the next few weeks, because I feel like there's more to say on the topic. And yeah, I've got a different outlook on the whole thing now that I've got some distance from the Blackout itself. So, all right, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.